Welcome into another edition of Sunday Flags. I'm your co-host Mason Kinnahan. That over there is Luke Brown. And what a week at Arnie's place, especially what a Sunday as Akshay Bhatia comes from behind and wins the Arnold Palmer Invitational in a playoff, the first since 1999. Luke, initial thoughts on the week and a come from behind victory for Akshay today.
Yeah, certainly, exactly how you want to go into the biggest tournament thus far of the year, which will come next week at the Players. Just overall, great Sunday golf. We saw plenty of dramatics. Obviously, it's always fun when you go to a playoff, regardless of, what tournament it is. Playoffs are always a lot of fun, and we certainly got to see that. Brutal miss for Daniel Berger. It was an uphill putt. It was definitely looking like it was going to break to the right. It did just that. There was enough on it. He did not account enough for the break. It was not an easy putt to make for par. Yeah, for his par. Um, and Akshay was able to take advantage. Akshay had the hot putter. Um, we were texting back and forth thinking that he could potentially make the first putt that he had and go birdie for the win. Instead, he just needs the par. It's exactly what you want to see going into the hottest stretch of golf that we're going to see this season.
Yeah, it really seemed to be kind of a one-horse race for majority of this tournament. Daniel Berger, from his Thursday 63, was pretty much in the lead for a majority of the week and into the weekend. But then this morning they finished up round three of play, and Akshay got it within one. It was a three-stroke lead overnight. They had a few holes to wrap up round three this morning. It was a two-shot swing, and then it was kind of just, Akshay got really close a couple of times, but Berger was able to hold on a lot throughout that fourth round until the very end, and that back half where Akshay shoots comes in a 31, including four birdies and an eagle to, force a playoff. And for Akshay, he's 24 years old. He, at one point in this round, was 5 shots back of Daniel Berger, and I think it was like T4 or 5 at one point. But he comes from behind and picks up the win, and a very, very impressive win. His third of his PGA Tour career, easily the biggest win of his career, a signature event, his first, his other two coming at the Barracuda and at the Valero Texas Open. So you kind of look at his progression. He won an alternate field event. Next, he won a, you could say low to mid tier PGA Tour full field event, and now picks up a signature event. He's kind of on a roll right now, and with how young he is, you kind of forget with how long he's been on tour. He's only 24. Just really impressive stuff from him today.
You clap it up for Mason Kinnahan too, favorite golfer getting a win on the PGA Tour in the year 2026. I mean, this is a guy that is very young, has a lot of promise. Is coming off probably. Would you call it an underwhelming 2025 season for him?
I felt like it was coming off the win at Valero in 2024. You're hoping for a little more. The thing started to heat up towards the back half, and in the FedEx Cup playoffs, he was able to play his way into the Tour Championship. But overall in the year, it was definitely not the step forward that maybe you were hoping for. But to begin 2026, he's scorching hot here and picks up a win.
Yeah, and just that entirely. Like, I was kind of interested in who was going to have a good season. It felt like one of them was going to. My favorite golfer Will Zalatoris, or yours in Akshay, and he gets the job done. Uh, Akshay has you believe it or not, and the people that are watching this video will certainly understand the blasphemousness of the fact that you were once asked if you are Akshay's brother. You
Yes.
want to tell our folks about what that
Yeah,
was
I,
like?
I was once asked if I was Akshay's brother back at Oakmont last year. Not sure who asked me that, just some random kid. Actually, it was someone around my age.
Shout
Um,
out, random person.
yeah, shout out random person. I was following Akshay around Oakmont, and we were on the 17th hole, and Akshay actually had a really great up and down for birdie. He sent his tee shot into like the greenside bunker, and he did some great stuff. But I was more confused because I was asked if I was Akshay's brother, and definitely threw me off a little bit. It definitely, my brain wasn't working for the following few seconds. It was not what I was expecting to come out of that guy's mouth, but you know, it, I guess you never know these days, right? You never know. So I guess valid question. Not really.
Yeah, I will never forget you coming back into the media center and saying,
Yeah,
"Hey, somebody just asked me if I'm Akshay Bhatia's brother."
yeah,
Very interesting. But
yeah.
you look at the putts that Bhatia made today on hole 5. He had a 12-footer for par, hole 10 an 8-footer for birdie, a hole 11 signature 57-footer for birdie that goes in, hole 12 an 8-footer, hole 13 a 10-footer, both 12 and 13 that was for birdie. I mean, man, like the putter, it kind of seems like that's where it's at. And I don't know. I got to look at the numbers after we record on. There was a lot of hype around the spider, the
Yes.
putter, because
Yeah.
how many of the first couple winners, like were the first? No, I'm losing track on what the statistic was, but I want to say like the first 5 or 6 winners on tour were all using the spider putter, and Batia does not.
Yes, we'll get to Batia's putter in a second because there's definitely some controversy about how Batia
Yeah,
putts, but
yeah,
looking at his round overall, 10 through 13 was where things really caught fire for Akshay. He was coming on to the 10th tee, 5 strokes down of Berger's lead, and he talked about this in kind of his post game or post round interview. He said that he felt really angry at the game and at how he was playing after he bogeyed that ninth hole. And Joe Greiner, who again is new on his bag this year, Max Homa's former longtime caddy, and Greiner is someone that knows how to win, knows how to caddy a winner, and he kind of got him in the right mindset in terms of using this anger to help him in the back half of the round, and he did so. 15 was really his only mistake when he missed a 2 foot putt for par. But he came back with a phenomenal approach shot on the par 5 16th. He got it within 5 feet of the hole, and was able to knock in an eagle. It was the best approach shot of the day on 16. So just making sure he was in the right mindset for that final stretch, and just being able to par 17 and 18. Berger, we'll get into him in a little bit. His bogey on 17 opened the door for Akshay, and a very nervy approach shot on 18 in regulation before the playoff. If that was 1 foot short on his approach, that's in the water. He's on the fringe between the green and the water. So very nervy shot there, but he was able to pull through. And once they got to a playoff, it was Berger's on the tee shots that kind of put him in some tough positions, and made
yeah.
him lay up a couple of times. And Akshay was able to capitalize on it and pull away with the victory. A very impressive round. But Luke, Akshay, what's so unique about him and his putting is that he has, of course, the long putter. We see some guys have it, like Adam Scott, and a few others, but it's the way he does it. Anchoring is a big issue
Yeah,
surrounding if he is he anchoring. Is he putting the putter in his fist because he holds it like with the high hand and stuff, and is he putting that against his chest before he puts to help him stabilize the putter, which again you're not allowed to do. It's really hard to tell because of how long the putter is and kind of his stance. What are your thoughts on this anchoring dynamic here? And I guess is Akshay doing it, or yeah, what do we think?
I don't know. It's so hard now with the new longer pole or longer shafts putters because you do obviously you hold it closer to your body. I would have to, I guess, go back and take a really more in-depth second look at what it looks like. I mean, it's if he's not doing it, it's close. Um, And in terms of the second part of the question, how should the PGA Tour go about this situation? I mean, obviously, nothing changes today. Like you're not changing anything that has happened. You earned the win. It's not a big enough issue to really look into any ramifications for this past weekend. Um, in terms of going forward, I mean, yeah, like if there's speculation, if there's controversy, anything of that nature, then they need to keep a close eye on it and look back at the rule, say is he doing it? It again, it's close. I don't think there's any issue with the way that I see him putt, but then again, there are people that are way more qualified than me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting, and also, how Batia has improved as a putter over the course of his career, and going from the shorter putters, or I guess you could say maybe normal size, to the longer putters. Back in 2023, there was he played in what, like, probably 25, 30 events, and in two of those events that kept track of strokes gained stats, or sorry, three, he gained strokes putting. The others he didn't. So three times back in 2023 he gained strokes putting, which is not good. But then he switches over to the long putter, and there's only, like, I think about 75% of his events in 2024 he gained strokes putting. So a massive increase in terms of how he is as a putter. Last year it was kind of up and down, but then to begin this year and in the last month or so, he's gained over 1.4 strokes in Phoenix, gained half a stroke at Pebble Beach, gained eighth of a stroke at Genesis, and now over 2.5 strokes this week, which he led the field in strokes gained putting, and pretty much in every putting statistic and around the green statistic. So it's definitely eye opening to see. He goes from this normal size putter and starts using that long putter, and it drastically gets better really
Mhm.
quickly. So that's something to keep an eye on. But again, I don't know how you go about this. I guess you could say your hands can't touch your shirt is probably the best way to do it. But at the
Mhm.
same time, does that just get rid of the long putter overall? Because you
I
kind of,
think it would. Yeah, I think
yeah.
it would.
So it's definitely interesting to see how the PGA Tour goes about this, and if we see more success from others. But this doesn't take away from this win, like you said.
Right.
He did a great job all week long. With his stuff around the green. That you talk about Arnie's place as a place that is known for the ball strikers, so for players that can hit the ball really well on approach shots and things like that. Akshay really struggled this week in those categories, especially off the tee with the driver. It's been an issue for him throughout the season so far, but he was able to pull through, which is really surprising. This week, overall, I'm pulling it now, he was first in strokes gained putting, first in around the green, 67th in strokes gained on the tee. So again, it's something that you kind of look at. Like Berger, for example, was top 20 in every category, yet still wasn't able to beat Batia, even though Batia, was he just gained so much around the green that it was really impressive to see, and also kind of odd at the same time in some ways.
Yeah, and before we move on to more of Berger, um, what an awful time to have a terrible shot tracer for
Oh,
NBC on the broadcast. Batia's shooting his approach on the first playoff hole, the only
yeah.
playoff hole, and this thing is just gearing for the bunker, left side bunker, definitely going to clear the pond. But then all of a sudden, it's 20 feet to the hole. It's a really good shot. I don't want to say it's a perfect shot, but it's exactly what he needed to do in order to at least secure a par. But this shot tracer is just going straight for either the back bunker or the left side bunker. And that is not at all what happened. A lot of folks thought, man, that is a terrible, unfortunate shot on the first playoff hole. Berger's probably going to win. I mean, like that shot tracer determines, at least momentarily, how a lot of people feel about where the golf tournament is heading. You have to get that right. And I know that There's a lot of technology that is far beyond my comprehension that goes into that shot tracer, and it's NBC, it's a national network, but that stuff has to be nailed. And I think the product of NBC's golf coverage took a little bit of a hit in the off season, like losing Johnson Wagner, and I don't think that people are thrilled about amount of commercials and things of that nature. So you have to give your audience every reason to continue to back golf on NBC. They did not do that with that shot tracer, and I know a lot of people were upset about it.
Yeah, and you look at the talent NBC has brought in Kisner, who's kind of been there for about a year or so now, maybe a little bit less than a year. And they also brought in Jim Furyk as well, who does stuff on Golf Channel before they get to the main NBC broadcast. Furyk, I thought, was great today, and so far it's going to be interesting to see him at the Players. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Kisner as an analyst, but that's a different story. But yeah, I mean, great week from Akshay, and he's able to come away with his third victory. His third victory as well that included a playoff, so he's now 3-0. In his playoff appearances, and all of his wins so far have come from playoffs. So pretty interesting to start this year. But let's go to the guy in the runner-up position. But the guy who has led this tournament pretty much the entire way until the very end, and that was Daniel Berger, who was again leading from Thursday through Saturday, led for pretty much all of today except for the playoff, and ultimately, didn't come away with the victory. Berger was someone who has dealt with a lot of injuries over his last couple of years. He had a wrist injury last year that kept him out for multiple months. He missed all of 2024, I believe, or 2023 with an injury as well. So he's still kind of coming back from that, but a really solid performance from him, and the performance that he can definitely build on heading into the next few weeks.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, again, it's just an absolute heartbreaker for Berger, who was right there, hung in the entire weekend as he had to do, gets into that playoff, and it's just a brutal miss. It completely opened the door for Bhatia. Um, yeah, your heart kind of breaks for that type of loss, considering his approach was not that much worse than Akshay's. His approach, I think it was the first cut that it hit. It might have been the second that it landed soft. It rolled onto the green. It was good. His approach putt was not bad. It took the right turns. It was just a bit short. All he had to do was clean things up, and he wasn't able to do it. So a really solid weekend overall to hold a lead Thursday, to hold a lead Friday, to be the overnight leader. Just could not get the job done, and you have to think that's motivating going forward.
Yeah, Berger, a former top 15 player in the world back in his prime of 2020, 2021. And then the injuries started to hit him, and he's kind of tried to work his way back up since then. Four-time PGA Tour winner. So far this season, it's kind of been a struggle. He had a T6 in Sony, but beyond that, T75 cut and T62 in his last three events. But now here at Arnold, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, coming away with the runner-up finish was really solid. Some other notes I had on Berger. I felt like throughout the entire day today, except at the very end, he really did a good job of staying calm and matching Akshay's runs or Ludwig's runs too, because Ludwig was in solo second at one point about the middle of this round. But then it kind of was the bad approach shot on 13, which kind of messed things up. He went far left into a greenside bunker. It got plugged. Then he had to chip out away from the green because he was being super conservative and didn't want to accidentally send that into the water. So he chips out away from the green and settles for bogey. And then on 17, it was just the missed 7-footer for par. It came down to a couple of putts where he could, either remain in the lead or keep this thing going even longer. And he missed that one on 17. And like you mentioned earlier, he missed the one in the playoff too. It's crazy how we've seen now back-to-back weeks Shane Lowry and Daniel Berger two guys that had really, really strong leads in the middle of their Sunday rounds, the winning pressure kind of just gets put on them, and ultimately they're not able to win the tournament. So I guess what have you seen from these leaders the last few weeks, and your thoughts on how hard it is to win here on the PGA Tour?
Well, I think you would have to dive pretty deep into PGA Tour records to find the amount of um, times that we've had this many Saturday leaders that do not win golf tournaments. Like, I'd be really interested in kind of the analytics on that because you said it. Like, there's a lot of guys that we have seen that it looks like it's their golf tournament. They are in control, and on Sunday, particularly as Sunday progresses, they just lose it. Like they just can't finish golf tournaments. And part of that I'm sure has to be mental. There is aspects of course management and where you're playing, things like that factor in. And then obviously just in contact of the golf ball and putting, things like that. But I would imagine the majority of it is mental on finishing golf tournaments. It's a difficult thing to do. Many players have talked about this several times about just how hard it is to win on the PGA Tour. It doesn't really matter the tournament a lot of the time, especially in an Arnold Palmer Invitational where you have a really solid field. It's very interesting to me how many the pure number of guys that have really controlled a golf tournament. Like you talk about Thursday through Sunday, Berger was in control. We've seen this how many times on the tour this year where guys just cannot finish golf tournaments and other players take advantage.
Yeah, and it also shows, going back a couple weeks ago, how good of a tournament Jacob Bridgman had.
Right.
He was in control, and unlike Lowry and Berger, he was able to hold on, and things got a little sketchy towards the end, but he was able to come away with the victory. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy, And I was watching the golf today, and Berger was up by 5 halfway through. I'm like, this thing's probably over. You can really never truly know because Akshay got hot, Berger cooled off, and all of a sudden, we've got a different winner than what I was expecting. So, very very interesting. How things kind of fell. Let's talk about a couple, or actually, before we get to a couple big names, finishing up the leaderboard and kind of the top 5. I mentioned Ludwig Oberg was in the mix. He finished T3, 3 stops back with Cam Young. Both Cam Young had a really solid day of shooting. Both of those guys had really solid days. Ludwig shooting a 67 and Cam Young shooting a 69. So solid performances from both of them. Colin Morikawa was in the mix for a large majority of this tournament for the runner-up position. He finishes 11 under and solo 5th. He shot a 70 today. And then Sahith Theegala with a really solid round of the day, 66. A really solid round, 6 under, 1 bogey, 7 birdies to catapult himself into the T6 position along with Russell Henley. Minwoo Lee is also at 10 under T6. And then to finish off the top 10, Ricky Fowler, T9. Fowler, he's been putting together some consistent performances recently, which is really nice to see. And Harry Hall as well at T9. Notable names: Jordan Spieth, T11, Siwoo Kim, T13, Hovland, T13, Sepp Straka, who was actually in the top 5 heading into today, shoots a final round 76 to go T13. And yeah, I mean, those kind of were the bigger names up the leaderboard, but kind of moving down a little bit more. Oh, Chris Gotterup was in the mix for the large majority of this tournament. He finishes shooting a 76 on Sunday, a T18 for him. But then we get to T24, and that's where Scotty Scheffler sits after shooting 70, 71, 72, 73, which, we talk about his first rounds being the worst ones. His first round was the best one this tournament. So your thoughts on kind of Scotty and where things stand, because multiple moments this weekend where he showed some visible frustration, which we don't usually see from Scotty, but some things that we don't typically see from Scheffler this week.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting couple of weeks, it feels like, for him. Like we talked about the uncharacteristic, really, really slow starts and strong finishes that have put him in top tens since, like when did this start? The Farmers? Was it like
Or,
there was that there was that stretch of results that he was having. Um, it must have been,
Phoenix.
yeah, so he won the Amex.
Right.
That was a little bit of a surprise, just that, well, you never really surprised when Scotty wins, but when he won the Amex, I don't know if anybody was expecting him to get going that quickly into the year, but he did. He jumped right into things and he was fine. Phoenix, he's potentially looking at a missed cut and goes T3.
Yeah.
Same thing at Pebble Beach. He goes T4, finishes there. Genesis, he was T12. This week, he was, yeah, you're right. He was frustrated. He was T24. He still made the cut. He's made every cut this year. He hasn't missed a cut in 4 years or something crazy. But if I don't know, I would say probably like it seems as though in today's episode of figuring out Scotty Scheffler, it seems like in the moment he's really really frustrated. Is he thinking about it right now? I don't know. I probably not because he's made it clear when he's at golf, he's at golf. When he's not, he's not. And being present in the moment in whatever he's doing is important to him. So, um, overall, I think the conversation right now that needs to be had around Scotty um, is just like where's the usual consistency, because that has been the strong suit, and now we're seeing these crazy good back halves of tournaments, and then out of nowhere this week he's really really strong to open, and doesn't play as well at the end of the week. I don't.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Yeah.
it's hard to know what to make of it because his standard is so high that even made cuts and top 30s are not entirely what he's looking for.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird. I don't really know what to take away from this week with him because
Yeah,
I just know that something is off because this isn't the usual Scotty Scheffler we're used to seeing. It was a Spieth-like finish for him this week because it was a double bogey on 14, birdie on 15, bogey on 16, birdie on 17, double bogey on 18 to wrap up his Arnold Palmer Invitational. But we saw him throw multiple balls in a wide variety of different areas. He threw one into the lake, I believe, on 18, and then he threw one into the forest at some point as well. So he was not thrilled with the way things were going. The putter was really not there. Even the approach play really lacked as well, which is not what you typically see from the
yeah,
best ball striker in the world.
yeah.
So that also wasn't consistent, and you kind of look at this week and you're like, okay, the Players is next week. That's a pretty big
Hmm.
tournament.
Hmm.
Does this performance kind of show where his game is at? But at the same
I
time,
think next week is a big one.
yeah, because at the same time, I'm like, I could see him still winning next week. I don't know if,
Oh, 100%.
yeah, I don't know if this
You
tells me otherwise. It's just
there's I
weird.
don't I it would have to be pretty outrageous for me to say there's no chance that Scotty Scheffler wins a golf tournament next week. It's
Right.
just how it is with him. You literally can never know. I would not be shocked if he dominates next week and nobody has a chance in the final round.
Yeah, but if he goes like T21, what are you thinking next week?
At the finish or at
Yeah,
the
at the
turn?
finish.
Yeah, I think we're back to kind of square one of where we're at right now. It's like what's going on? This is strange. And I think if he does that, then you're looking at then he starts to get questions. Like, I mean, maybe even going into the Players, if he does a pre-tournament presser, do they start asking questions about
But
what's up?
like, yeah, yeah, but also at the same time, like T3, T4, T12, and T24 during probably the worst stretch in multiple years for Scotty is still kind of crazy. Like, how long do you think he has to go without a win for us to say something is up?
Hmm. It's a good question because the win that he had was his first tournament of the year. That was January 22nd. So in 2 weeks, that'll be 2 months. I would say maybe if he doesn't have a win by the PGA or the Truist, maybe that would make
Yeah,
4 months.
yeah. I think that makes
And
sense.
I think the Truist is kind of the sweet spot. If he doesn't win by the end of the Truist championship, we say what's going on because that's 4 months.
Yeah, during the stretch last year, he played in 6 events. He went T20 at the Players, T2 at the Texas Houston Open, fourth at the Masters, T8 at RBC Heritage, and I think was the Truist after the in between RBC Heritage and just Byron Nelson. I don't know when the Truist was, but then he won the Byron Nelson and won the
Mm,
PGA. So it was about that time when he started, ramping up and
yeah,
started peaking. So
yeah. The
yeah, I don't know.
Truist was, I think, the first tournament in May, first weekend in May.
Byron Nelson was the first weekend of May, so it might have been the week after.
Must
I think it was
second,
the week
yeah, it
after.
must have been
But
after that.
yeah, I don't know. Definitely interesting. From
Yeah, it
Scotty so
was. It
far.
was it was May 11th was the final
Yeah,
round.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, definitely interesting from Scotty. Something to note and keep an eye on. But I don't think we're raising any alarm bells or anything right now.
Not yet.
It's
No,
kind of
not
just
yet.
something to take note of.
Yeah.
Going from number one to world number two, Rory McIlroy WD'd on Saturday. It's his second time
Hmm.
ever WDing in his career. Was at 4 under before his Saturday round. So still kind of in the mix in this
Hmm.
one, but he cited back spasms that he suffered while warming up, or I think so. That was the issue. Definitely, I would say a yellow flag for Rory right now.
Yeah, yeah. Just because back injuries are such like a hot spot, I think yellow flag is kind of perfect. That's what I would say as well. This wasn't a cop out. We know that he was 4 under. He was in the mix. Because while Rory is great, um, if he's not playing well and he knows he's going to miss the cut, he he might withdraw. Like that's just
Yeah.
he's prideful. He's pretty proud of who he is on the golf course, and he's not gonna kind of stand for missing a cut. So I could see that happening, but that's not what this was. He was in that mix. He was definitely gonna make the cut no matter what. So, um,
Well, he already made the cut. It was
well,
on Saturday.
it was Saturday. It was
Yeah.
Saturday. Yeah. What am I even saying?
Yeah.
So he had already made the cut. He knew he was making money if he stayed in. So there was no incentive for him to withdraw unless it was necessary. We'll see what happens going forward. Does he play next week? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the big question. Is I believe I want to say it was Adam Schupak who said that Rory gave him a thumbs up while he was leaving the course on
Oh,
Saturday.
really?
So he seems like this was a more precautionary thing
That
than
can mean
anything.
nothing. Rory's,
Um, yeah,
he
I mean
can
with
be
the Sawgrass next week. Yeah.
he can be pretty liberal with thumbs up. I think.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't.
So
Yeah.
we'll have to see, but I guess with Sawgrass next week, he definitely that's definitely on his mind.
Hmm.
It's a couple extra days to rest up before that. He is in a featured group that they announced today, or marquee group, whatever they're called. So as of right now, he is still in, and he's
Who's
still,
he playing with? Do you know?
oh my goodness, they said it earlier. I want to say it was Fleetwood and someone.
Oh, that's a
I,
good group.
I, yeah, it was a good group. I know that Scotty's playing with Hideki and someone, but I don't know. I think it was something like that. Um, but yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, similar to the Scotty stuff. But I don't think it's like a red flag or anything. Hopefully, it's just precautionary. You don't want a top two player in the world going out at this time of year. Ramping up to the Players next week and the Masters a month away. So yeah, I would expect this to be kind of a precautionary thing. But wrapping things up here on the Arnold Palmer Invitational, some key guys who missed the cut: JJ Spawn, Ben Griffin, Ryan Gerard, Shane Lowry, Justin Thomas, Sung J M, Keegan Bradley, and I think that was a lot of them. Justin Rose, Pock Eater. Those are some pretty big names that missed the cut this week. So definitely some stuff to kind of keep an eye on with those guys. I think for Justin Thomas though, and Sung J M, we can kind of be like, okay, these are guys that coming back from an injury.
Right.
Justin Thomas shot 79 and was DFL this week, so I don't think.
Yeah, I think that kind of the goal for them is to just get back from what they that's a lot of missed time, especially for JT. Like he wasn't really sure when he was going to come back, and has been dealing with that back injury. So I think if they're still really really struggling by, say, U.S. Open.
Yeah, yes.
Even I was going to give them a little longer than that, but I would say somewhere between the PGA and the U.S. Open. If they are not in a good spot, then you got a real problem on your hands. But until then, I think it's just getting back in the swing of things.
Yeah, I would say the same for those guys. I was going to say something, but I forgot. So we're gonna go to the predictions board because
sounds like
Luke,
a plan.
You're going to like this. You are going.
Well, I got the one category. Yeah, so I was mixing up my weeks earlier today thinking about this, but yeah, so you had the no show in your top 50. Man, we made that gap look pretty nice.
Yeah.
Still work to do, but yeah, Rory does not help you at all.
No.
Just to run through it for those who are listening on the audio only, Mason was disqualified in the top 50 category because last week who was it that was like 52?
Nikolai Højgaard.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
He used Nikolai Højgaard in his top 50. Højgaard was like 51 or 52, so not eligible for the top 50 category. So I had the choice whether to what was it, take away Højgaard's points from last week or rule you out this week?
Yes.
And I chose to rule him out this week. So I say all that to tell you I had Colin Morikawa, who placed 5th and earned 840,000 in the top 50 category to Mason's 0. Rio Hisatsune was my not top 50 guy who placed T33, made 109,000 bucks to Sung Jae Im, who was cut in his season debut. Rory McIlroy withdrew. I had Scheffler in our past champion category. Scheffler earned 157,000. And in the one and done category, I wasted my time with Shane Lowry, who was cut. You had Matt Fitzpatrick, who earned 78,000. So definitely your roughest week of the year, with a non-applicable, a cut, a withdrawal, and a T41 for a grand total this week of 78,000 for Mason. And I had Morikawa, Hisatsune, and Scheffler, who earned me money. So the grand total, Mason's got $5.5 million on the year. I have 4.3. I'm making that gap a little bit tighter, but certainly with a, 5th major type of event coming up next week's going to be pretty big on the predictions board.
Yeah, it is. And I will let you know, Luke, you gained 1.1 million, I think, this week on me. So that's a pretty big jump. You pretty much cut the lead in half this week. So
yeah.
That's pretty big. And, I was expecting more from Matt Fitzpatrick, at least. I mean, Rory, I can't really control. Frank
that's kind of out of here.
Maybe was more hopium than anything. And Matt Fitzpatrick was hoping for more, too. But T41 is not great.
Yeah.
Not great. But, yeah, I will say our boy Shad, he kind of cooled off a little bit this week.
Oh, did he?
A little bit. He went Siwoo Kim for top 50.
Okay.
And I believe Siwoo was like 20-something. Ricky Fowler, though, for not top 50 was a top 10. Scotty was
really good.
Top, T24, and then Colin. So as is one and done.
That's pretty darn good still.
Yeah, but based on last few weeks, he cooled off. But this is still a really
we're talking like yeah.
So, it's definitely he definitely gained more money than me. That's for sure. So. But
In terms of golf around the world, just to give you a quick rundown, Zach Johnson wins at the James Hardy Pro Football Hall of Fame Invitational. That's Johnson's debut on the Champions Tour. John Rahm, after we've talked about his kind of issues sorting things out with Live and the TP World Tour, he wins Live Hong Kong. Was there some sort of craziness with the Live Hong Kong guys and the issues going on the other side of the world? I had
oh
seen
yes, yeah.
travel issues. Do you know more about that than I do?
Yeah, so there was travel issues because of that stuff, and apparently John Rahm got like private jets for those guys to come to Hong Kong,
For
and
other
like
players.
yes, for other players.
Oh,
So I think like one of them didn't accept it or something because he had some other plan, but like pretty much all of them took it up, and
yeah.
and Hat took it. So I guess like props to him. I guess
Yeah, I'm gonna read the
doing that.
tweet from, I might mess the name up. I'm sorry, to the executive editor of golf.com, Alan Boss Stable. Um, it's got to be one of those two on the last name. Just learned that Live players stranded in the Middle East have arrived safely in Hong Kong on a private jet commissioned by their Live stablemate, John Rahm. As reported by Flushing It Golf, 8 livers, Lee Westwood, Laurie Canner, Thomas Dietrich, Sam Horsfield, Anirban Lahiri, Tom McKibben, Adrian Moronk, and Caleb Surratt were scrambling to find flights out of Dubai to get to Hong Kong for this week's Live event. According to the source, 7 of those players, uh, plus one caddy, hopped on a flight from neighboring Oman to Hong Kong by way of a private jet organized by Ram. Live have had an alternative exit strategy for the players that were apparently involved flying via London, the source said, but the jet from Oman was an easier route, just not that easy. The source said that the players took ground transport from Dubai to the Oman border, then had to exit the vehicle and walk approximately a mile with their bags and clubs. That was later corrected that they did not walk a mile with their bags and clubs. They had buses transport them uh, on that mile. So it seems everything got sorted out, but just kind of a messy situation at some point to get flights because of some of the foreign affairs over in the Middle East.
Yeah, definitely, interesting to see how this is going to, not only just play out, in golf, but in other sports as well that, has to travel in that area. Definitely is going to affect, sports for a little bit, for sure.
Yes.
And travels and all that.
That is Rom's first win on Live since 2024's Live Chicago event. But important to note that despite the fact that he has not won since that event, he has been really strong. He won Live's Player of the Year last year. Super strong.
Without a win, even though one
Yes,
guy won 5 times and didn't win it.
yes.
Yep.
That was. I don't know if that system was changed for 2026. Joaquin Neiman won 5 events last year on Live, did not win, and they only have 13 events a year. Like keep that in mind. Like 5 is a lot on the PGA Tour. When you shrink that event size down, it's a conversation for another day. But 13 events, one guy wins 5, doesn't win Player of the Year because John Rahm was that strong by their standards. So Thomas Dietrich was the runner-up in Hong Kong. Dan Bradbury wins the Johannesburg Open. Casey Jarvis is the runner-up. Ricky Castillo wins on the PGA Tour at the Puerto Rico Open. The 18 is he 18 years old? Blades Brown.
I think he's 17.
17 years old, Blades Brown, solo third place, was
18.
really
He's 18.
strong.
You're right.
He is
Yep.
18. At the start of the year, now he gets a solo third, and that is still a PGA Tour event. It was an alternative event, but still, that is a solo third place on the PGA Tour for Blades Brown. So certainly, not a one and done guy. Stick
Yeah.
around a little bit and try to make some moves on the PGA Tour. But in terms of that, do you have anything else for us?
I think that was pretty much it. One last thing on Blades Brown. We will probably see him on a few more alternate field events
That's great.
this year, and I think alternate field events. We'll see what happens with those with the new schedule and all that. But they are a good opportunity for young players like Brown to start to make a name for themselves.
Absolutely.
A lot of big names, including Akshay, won their first events at alternate field events before, on the big tour. So yeah, I think that was it. Any final thoughts?
No, excited for the week coming ahead. A programming note that you will certainly be a little bit more acquainted with Henry Sklar. He was co-hosted an episode earlier in the year with Mason because I am down in Alabama for some NCAA Division III track nationals. So Mason will certainly have you the rest of the way. I'll be on your preview episode for the players, but Mason will be carrying our programming a little bit for the fifth major in the Players Championship this coming week. But we'll see you Wednesday to preview that and certainly look forward to a great week at CPC Sawgrass.
Yeah, Wednesday's episode is going to be out a little bit later in the day. We're going to wait for Brian Rolab's press conference and kind of go over the takeaways from that. So keep that in mind as well. But again, you can follow all of our stuff at Sunday Flags Pod, pretty much wherever you get your podcast or anything like that. Follow Luke Brown at Luke Brown Sports, myself, Mason_Kinnahan. But for Luke Brown, I have been your co-host, Mason Kinnahan, and this has been Sunday Flags.